Looking back, I realize I should have known how this would turn out. I met Monica when I went to King Soopers to buy groceries for dinner. It was Sunday, and as I was walking from the parking lot to the store, I noticed a woman pushing a shopping cart. She was wearing skinny jeans and high heels, and I have no idea why, but a woman who wore high heels with jeans caught my attention. I hurried to grab the cart and followed her into the store. I noticed she had filled out her Levi's pretty well, and I was so busy looking at her ass and sexy legs in heels that I almost collided with her with my cart. I stopped in time and looked up to see that she had a tattoo that covered her entire back. Or at least, that's what I thought. Her top covered most of her, but I could see her just above the neckline of her top, and I could see some of her coming out of the armholes on either side. "Sorry," I said, "but I have a question for you." She turned to face me, and I saw that her face was as sexy as the rest of her body. "And what question?" she asked. "How much will it cost me to persuade you to take off your top so I can see the whole tattoo?" She laughed and looked around. "Here? In the shop? In front of God and everyone else? I think I could do it for $1,000. She saw the expression on my face and said, "What? Do you think I'm not worth $1,000? I'm sure you're worth much more, but it's not affordable." "And what is your price range?" "I won't insult you by talking about this." "Oh no, don't insult me. You started it yourself. How much do you want to pay?" "Honestly, I do not know. I didn't expect to have this conversation. I thought you would say something like, 'You don't have enough, and you will never have enough.' What if I said that I agree with everything you have? What would I get?" $53 and some change. "Never. Not here in the store. Not for such a small thing." She started to walk away. I smiled guiltily and shrugged. "You're pretty cute," she said, and then continued. $53, right? Not here in the store, not for $53, but call me in about an hour." And she took a business card out of her purse and handed it to me. "Maybe we can work something out. Use your mobile number." And then she pushed her cart towards the deli counter. I watched her walk away, my head throbbing as I watched her ass move in those tight jeans. I looked at the card and saw that her name was Monica Ensign and that she worked for a real estate company. There were 2 telephone numbers, one of them a cell phone, a fax number, and an email address. I put the card in my shirt pocket, intending to call Monica Ensign. I didn't have a checkbook with me, and as Monica walked away, I decided not to spend my $53 on groceries. I left my empty cart in the produce section and headed home. I took a shower, put on clean clothes, and looked at the clock. It's been an hour and 5 minutes since Monica Ensign gave me her card. I took my phone out of the charger and made a call. "Hello? I didn't tell you my name, but I'm the guy who really wanted to see your tattoo, and by the way, my name is Rob. I am surprised. I really didn't expect you to call. I thought you were just testing me. You give your phone number to any guy who you think is just pranking you?" "No, but I said you're pretty cute. What did you expect to get from this call?" "I have no idea, but you told me to call you in an hour, so I was hoping you had something in mind." "Yes. I was curious to know if you would actually pay me to see my tattoo." "Still would." "Okay, but it will cost you money." "How many?" $53. "And you should invite me to dinner." "I can do it." "When?" "Now is the right time. Do you know where Castleview Apartments are?" "I know. I'm in apartment 15, in building E. How long can I wait for you?" "After a minute. Maybe in a minute and a half." "A minute? Where are you now?" "Apartment 22 in building B. I made it in about 15 minutes. She answered the door wearing the same jeans and heels, but she was wearing a different top, and it didn't show her tattoo. "Just let me grab my purse and I'm ready to go." On the way to my truck, she asked where I would take her, and I told her it was her choice. She chose Angelina's, and there, over veal scallopini and linguine with clam sauce, we exchanged vital statistics. 24-year-old single mother, daughter with grandparents on weekends, office manager for a real estate firm, avid bowler, 2 mixed and 1 women's domestic league, with an average of 176. She loved classical music, read on average 2 books a week. Currently, 9 books are borrowed from the library, and loved to cook. For my part, she learned that I was a single 26-year-old logistics manager for a national trucking company who also played bowls, but only in one men's house league, and had a batting average, embarrassing to admit after she said mine, of 155. My music is country western. I rarely read, never watch TV, and restored cars in my free time. My current project was a 1993 Mustang convertible. The last fact interested her. She also drove a Mustang convertible, a 1997. Black with a black top? Yes. I saw him in the parking lot and I was wondering who he was. It belonged to my husband and I got it by default when his stupid ass was killed. Unhappy marriage? Everything was fine until I became pregnant with Melanie. He did not want children, and explained this very convincingly even before the wedding. When my birth control pills failed me, he said he wasn't going to bother himself with a child and left. He joined the army and, like a fool, allowed the recruiter to talk him into joining the airborne forces. I never got the full story, but on his 3rd training jump, something went wrong with his main chute, and he either panicked and forgot he had a reserve chute, or something went wrong with that too. Doesn't matter. It was a closed casket funeral. What's your story? 26 years old and not married? 26 years old and a widower. Some similarities with your story. I wanted children, but she didn't. After 2 years of constant urging, unsuccessfully, to get a vasectomy so she could go off the pill, she upped and left me. She told me to fuck off and die and left the house. She was so mad at me that she didn't pay attention, ran a red light and got hit by a beer truck. And a closed coffin funeral. Why didn't you give her what she wanted? Because I wanted children. I didn't know that a vasectomy could be reversed and thought that if she could ever change her mind, I needed to be functional. The irony of the situation is that it didn't matter because it turned out that I was infertile and would not have been able to father a child anyway. How did you find out? Sad story, but the short version is this. The girl I was dating said that she was pregnant and that I was the father. I knew she wasn't in an exclusive relationship with me, and I didn't believe her. I told her that if the DNA test shows that I am the father, then I will marry her. Otherwise not. The test showed that I am not the father. 3 months later, at a party, I was having drinks with an ex-girlfriend who asked where Sally was, and I told her the story. She said she could tell me I wasn't the father without even bothering to do a DNA test. I asked her how she could say that. She told me she never took the pill, and we did it dozens of times when she was at her most fertile, and I never got her pregnant, so it probably wasn't possible. Since I really wanted children, I decided it would be better to test everything, and then I discovered that I couldn't do it. If I want children, I will have to marry a woman who already has them. When we arrived at her house, she invited me in, sat me down on the sofa, and offered me a beer. When she brought it to me, she handed it to me and said, "That's $53, please." And she stood there, holding out her hand until I took the money out of my pocket and handed it to her. She went to her purse and put the money in it, and then came back and stood in front of me. She took off her top and slowly turned around in front of me. "What do you think? Was it worth paying?" "No, you are deceiving me." "Am I lying? How am I cheating?" "I paid to see the whole tattoo, and your bra covers part of it." "Oh no, you won't deceive me. You paid for me to take my top off. You didn't say a word about a bra." My exact words in the store were, "How much will it cost me to make you take off your top so I can see the whole tattoo?" The intention was to see the entire tattoo. Earlier on the phone, you told me $53 to see this tattoo, and there was no mention of only removing the top part. You told me you wanted to know if I would pay to see the tattoo. The agreement was that I would see the entire tattoo. Then, it's okay. I think we'll have to compromise. I'll take off my bra, but you'll have to take off your pants and panties. Why? Because you want to see my tattoo, and I want to see what you waved at me from your pants on Saturday. It was not difficult, and I began to unbuckle my belt. As I pulled the zipper down, Monica unclasped her bra and shook it off. Her bra fell to the floor at the same time as my pants and boxers. Monica managed to get a good look at everything. Monica slowly turned around in front of me and I saw the entire tattoo, as well as what the bra was covering. Monica's breasts were fantastic. I wasn't much of an expert on breasts, but I guessed they were size 36. They were cone-shaped and stuck straight out of her chest like the nose cones of rockets. "Well," Monica asked, "what do you think?" "They are fantastic." This is just one tattoo." "What tattoo?" "I'm talking about your breasts. She is gorgeous." "You are a cheater. You never wanted to see my tattoo. It was my chest the whole time." "No, it is not true. Your tops, both the one you wore to the store and the one you wore tonight, were loose, and I couldn't even tell what kind of breasts you had." She looked down at me and said, "You probably like them if they have that effect on you." She knelt down in front of me. After about a minute, she stood up and, leaving her stilettos on, took off her jeans, and as she came out of them, she told me to hurry up and take off the rest of my clothes. I quickly complied, and then she led me to her bedroom. I lay there trying to catch my breath. Incredible woman. I saw a lot of her tattoos, mostly geographical markers like honeypot or gate to heaven, but I won't talk about their location. We went 4 rounds before I got out of bed and walked into the living room to get his clothes, when Monica said, "Where did you go?" "I'm done, baby. I have nothing more to give." "Get your ass back. You can't do what you did to me and then leave without giving me some cuddle time." "Then you need to set the clock to 6. Tomorrow is my work day." "Me too, and the clock is ready at 5:45. I climbed back onto her bed, she snuggled up to me, and within minutes, I was in dreamland. The clock struck, and I woke up to Monica clinging to me. When I moved, her eyes opened and she said, "Good morning, lover. Time for a quick wake-up call?" "Not if I'm going to get to work on time, and my boss is a stickler for punctuality." "I don't think I like him," she said, getting out of bed. When I was dressed and ready to leave, Monica walked me to the door, kissed me, and then said, "I'll pay you $53 to come back tonight." Was I going to say no? That evening, she answered the doorbell naked and with money in her hand. The evening repeated the previous one, and in the morning, getting ready to leave, I said, "I'll give you $53 if I can come back this evening." I was not surprised when she replied that she agreed to the deal. Over the next 3 days, money passed back and forth between us until Saturday. "Sorry, lover, but Melanie is coming home tomorrow afternoon, so I'll have to start acting like a mommy again." "Mommies can date, right?" "Yes." "Then use $53 to pay for the babysitter." "What kind of evening is suitable for you?" "I can do it on Tuesday." This is a date. On Tuesday evening, I met 6-year-old Melanie, and she stole my heart. Monica introduced us. I extended my hand and said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Melanie." She took my hand, and, shaking it, said, "You're good. Are you my mommy's friend?" "Mommies need friends." I smiled and said, "I'm trying really hard to be your mommy's best friend." "I like you. Do you like him too, Mommy?" "I like him, honey." Just then, the nanny showed up, and after a few final instructions regarding Melanie, Monica and I headed out to dinner. Leaving her apartment, I asked, "Where?" expecting her to name the restaurant, and she giggled and said, "To Building B." "I haven't gone shopping yet, and there isn't much food there." "It will be when we get there." I can be a little slow sometimes, but I understood what she said pretty quickly. When we got to my apartment, she started undressing before the door was completely closed behind us, and since our apartments had the same layout, she immediately knew where the bedroom was and headed there. She was lying on the bed and waiting for me to take off the last of my clothes. "Dinner is waiting," she said as I climbed onto the bed, and I pounced on her like water in the desert. I don't know what you think of me, lover, but I'm actually not as easy as you think, judging by how things went. I admit that I was like that once. I was once so easy that I am ashamed of myself when I remember those days. Those were the days when I got the honeypot and heaven tattoos. I rode with bikers for a while, and that's when I got a big tattoo on my back. I don't know how I would have ended my life if I hadn't met Dan and married him. When I said yes, all my wildness seemed to disappear. You may not believe it, but before you, I hadn't had a man for almost a year. I don't know what it is about you, but that day, I could barely control myself next to you in the store. I was afraid, really afraid, that you wouldn't call when I gave you my phone number. Love at first sight? Honestly, I don't know, but something made me give you my business card that day. There's something special about you, and I'm not the only one who feels it. Melanie has never behaved towards a man the way she behaved towards you today. I walked her home and kissed her goodnight and asked when I would see her again, and she said Thursday if I could. I'm damn sure I can. On Thursday, she was waiting outside my apartment when I returned home from work. I asked her to give me a minute to wash myself and then we could go somewhere. But she said she didn't want to go anywhere except my bedroom. I told her that I wanted more from our relationship than just sex. And she said that there would be plenty of time for that later. But at the moment, she needed to make up for almost a year of no sex. I never wanted to put myself in the position of being against sex. So we went to the bedroom. When she was about to leave, I asked, "Can we have a Saturday date? You, Melanie, and me? Maybe we should go to the zoo or something?" Monica looked at me as if I had two heads and then said, "Are you serious?" "Of course seriously, and why are you even asking about this? Every other guy I dated acted like Melanie was something dirty on their shoes that needed to be brushed off. Many of them didn't even ask for a second date. It was like my child was like a disease they were afraid of catching. So your desire to include Melanie in your life came as a bit of a shock to me. Not all guys are empty-headed assholes. You finally got lucky and found someone who is different. I walked her home, kissed her goodnight, and told her that I would come pick them up on Saturday at 10. On Friday after work, I went to a gas station that was not working, which I rented. There were 2 bays with lifts and a working air compressor, and that's where I worked on the cars I restored. The Mustang, which was my current project, was almost ready to be painted, and I was hoping to be able to do it within the next week. Then I had to decide whether to keep it or sell it. This was a problem I had with all my projects. When I finished them, I always wanted to keep them. Fortunately, I have always managed, sometimes with difficulty, to part with them. Besides, I needed to start looking for my next project. While I was working on 93, I was thinking about what was going on between me and Monica. It was obvious that I liked her, and not just for sex, and she seemed to enjoy her time with me. But would it last? I found myself hoping so, but what does she think? When I was done, I closed the toolbox, made sure the compressor was off, set the alarm, locked the door, and went home. As I fell asleep, I was still thinking about Monica and myself. At 9 in the morning, Monica called me. "I have to cancel the meeting today. The water pump on my car is leaking, and I need to take care of it today." No need. You won't need your car today because I'll be driving. Tomorrow I will replace your water pump. I can't ask you to do this. You didn't ask me, I volunteered myself. You know what I mean. You told Melanie about the zoo, didn't you? Well, yes. Are you going to disappoint her when you really shouldn't? No, you are right. You cannot do it this way. We had a great day at the zoo. Melanie held my hand everywhere we went, and I did everything she wanted. Food to feed the animals? I brought it to her. Did she want a hot dog? She got it. Her legs were tired and she wanted me to carry her. She climbed onto my shoulders, and all this time, Monica looked and shook her head in surprise. When it was time to leave, I asked Monica where she wanted to go for dinner, but before she could say a word, Melanie asked, "Can we go to Mickey D's? Can I buy a Happy Meal?" Guess once where we ate. When I brought them home, Monica invited me into the house and offered me a beer. I sat down on the sofa, and before I could get comfortable, Melanie climbed onto my lap. Monica came back with a beer and told Melanie to get off me. "You can't just pester Rob whenever you want." "He's my friend, Mommy. I like him." "I don't mind Monica. She is happy where she is. Maybe I'm against it. After all, she takes my place. I think I need to buy bigger knees." When it was time for Melanie to go to bed, she asked me if I would read to her. I looked at Monica and she said, On her night table, there is a book of fairy tales. It doesn't matter which one you choose. She's heard them all more than once and never gets tired of listening to them. After Melanie fell asleep, I went out and joined Monica in the living room. We sat on the couch and hugged until my hands began to search for parts of her body, and then she pushed me away. Sorry, darling, but not here. I'm too noisy, and will wake her up. So when can we get together and make some noise again? I'll see if I can find a babysitter for tomorrow evening. How will we solve the noise issue when we get married? A shocked expression appeared on her face. Shall we get married? We've only known each other for 2 weeks, Rob. We know nothing at all about each other. I didn't say it would be next week, but I'm putting it in perspective. So why don't we take a look at what we know? We seem to enjoy spending time with each other. I'd rather be with you than any other girl I've dated. There is something about me that attracted you so much that you were afraid that I would not call you. And according to you, just from my conversation with you, you become wet. Add to this the fact that we are simply incredible in bed, but more important than our sexual compatibility is something that cannot be overlooked. What exactly? Your daughter likes me. Are you serious? Are you really thinking about marriage? Yes. I do not know what to say. I didn't think that far ahead. You need to start thinking about it because I actually plan on asking in the not-too-distant future. I already know enough about you, but I understand that you need a little time to learn more about me. I stood up, she walked me to the door, and after a rather heated goodnight kiss, I said, On Sunday, the parts stores don't open until 9, so I'll be here around 8. I'll take you and Mel to breakfast, and then we'll go get the water pump and take care of your pony. I was at her door at 5 minutes to 8, and we headed to the Village Inn for breakfast. We were at AutoZone at 9, picking up the water pump and some other parts. I played it safe and ordered the pump immediately after speaking with Monica on Saturday to make sure it was in stock. As for other details, I have learned from my own experience that when replacing a water pump, all belts should be replaced. We went to the station and changed the pump while Monica read and Melanie repeated that she was going to help me. I let her hold the wrenches for me and pretended it was a very important job. When I was done, we drove back to AutoZone so I could get reimbursed for the replacement part and then asked the girls what they wanted to do next. On the way to the gas station, we passed by a park and Melanie saw children playing on the swings and slides, which meant she wanted to go there. While I was pushing Melanie on the swing, Monica was using her phone, trying to find a babysitter for the night. We were lucky, and she found one. We went to McDonald's to get dinner early, and then I took the girls home. The nanny showed up, and as soon as we left her apartment, Monica said, "Don't make a fool of me, and don't ask where I want to go." If you don't yet know the answer to this question, then you need professional help. We had to finish at 9:45 because the nanny couldn't stay until 10. As I walked Monica home, I asked her when we could meet again. I don't know, Rob. Fall leagues start next week, and I've already committed to playing in 2 leagues, so Tuesday and Friday will be busy. I decided to give up one of the mixed leagues this year. What night are you bowling? It was supposed to be Wednesday, but I might give that up. If I play on Wednesday, then the week we will only have Monday and Thursday, and I want more. In fact, you won't have those days, at least not for making love. We could see each other, but not have sex. Why? Because I can't afford to pay the nanny more than for Tuesday and Friday, and maybe one more night. You don't have to pay a babysitter to go bowling. Mel can stay with me. This will free up your babysitter money for other nights, and I'll pay for any babysitter for the weekend. There are other problems, Rob. There are evenings when I have to work late. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And what? I can look after meals when that happens. The main thing, at least for me, is that I spend as much time as possible with you. You still don't get the whole picture, Rob. I need to spend time with my daughter. I can't just leave her with the babysitter every night. The best you'll get from me is the weekend and maybe, just maybe, an occasional day during the week. Can't the evenings you spend with Melanie include me? Some of them can, but I still need to be alone with her. It sounds like you're trying to cut me out of your life. Okay, Rob, time for the truth. I'm not trying to cut you out of my life, but I'm trying to slow down. Talking about marriage after we've only known each other for 2 weeks scares me. I never even thought about such things. I need time, Rob. Time to get to know you better. Time to see if we can live honestly. I agree with you that we seem to be off to a good start, but I'm not as confident as you are that this will last, at least for now. I think I see it. Maybe I went a little overboard, but in my defense, I've never felt so confident that something is just perfectly right before. I'll step back and let you set the pace. Can I make an offer that guarantees me at least one night during the week? I don't know. What is this? You and I will play bowling in a mixed league. I'll treat it like a date night and take care of the babysitter. Maybe in the league you were thinking of quitting? Well, that's a great idea. And in keeping with the fact that you need to get to know me better, would you and Mel come with me to a barbecue at my parents' house next Sunday? I wish I could. I know I said I'd let you set the pace, but could you and Mel have dinner with me tomorrow night? I make some damn good meatloaf. I think we can do this. Say, at 7. We will be there. On Monday, I was home by 5:30 and immediately got to work on dinner. By 6, it was already in the oven, and then I spent a little time putting things in order in the apartment. Monica had been in the apartment before, of course, but with her tendency to head straight to the bedroom, I don't know how much she'd actually seen, and I didn't want her to think I was a slob. It wasn't in bad shape, but it wouldn't hurt to try to make it a little better. Monica and Melanie rang the doorbell at 7. I told them to relax in front of the TV while I took dinner out of the oven, but Melanie wouldn't hear of it. I'm already a big girl and I know how to set the table. I showed her where the cutlery was and placed the plates where she could reach them. Monica watched with amusement from the living room as I sort of hovered over Mel to make sure she didn't drop or break the dishes, but she didn't. She couldn't arrange the silverware correctly, but she had a concept. She had pieces on both sides of the plates, but they were random. On one plate there was a knife and fork on one side and a spoon on the other. On the next platey, the fork and spoon were on one side and the knife on the other. Still, it was a good try on the part of a 6-year-old. I took the meatloaf and baked potato out of the oven and the salad out of the refrigerator, and we sat down to eat. Melanie monopolized the dinner conversation, talking about her day at school. We heard all about her friends and her new boyfriend, Jeffrey. Boy? I asked. Aren't you too young to have a boyfriend? All girls should have boyfriends. Mom has it, which means I should have it too. Does your mom have a boyfriend? I looked at Monica when I asked this question, and she looked at me with some kind of half smile. Do you know who he is? Of course I know, silly. It's you. A partial smile remained on Monica's face, and she shrugged slightly. After dinner, we parked Melanie in front of Cartoon Network, and Monica and I played cribbage and talked until it was time for them to leave. One of the things we talked about was how I would watch Melanie when Monica started bowling the next day. We decided that I would babysit at Monica's so I could get Mel to sleep, rather than having her fall asleep at my house and then waking her up to take her home. I kissed both girls goodnight and told Mel, I'll see you tomorrow, and then went to bed. On Tuesday morning at 6:30, Monica called me and said that dinner would be on the table when I came to sit with Melanie. I arrived at 5:45. We had dinner, and then Monica went bowling. I asked Mel what she wanted to do, and she said she wanted to play a game. What game? A game for adults, like you play with your mother. I realized she was referring to the cribbage game Monica and I played, and I knew that the game was years beyond her abilities, so I pulled out a deck of cards and taught her how to play fish. She was good at numbers, but had trouble with card faces. After a while, we sat and watched cartoons on TV until it was time for her to sleep, and I read to her until she fell asleep. Monica returned home at 9:45 and told me how the evening had gone. She rolled 214 and won the jackpot, but was 6 points short. We kissed a little on the couch, and then I went home. On Wednesday, I picked up Monica at 6:30. We were on the tracks by 10:07, and I was introduced to my new teammates. It was a mixed league, and according to the rules, a team had to have at least 2 women or 2 men. Some teams had 3 men, and 2 women, while others had the opposite. Our team consisted of Bill and Paula Martin, Susan Billings, Monica, and myself. I had the lowest GPA, so I got the number 1 role. Susan was next, then Paula, Monica, and Bill. We started well and took all 3 games, and I had a good evening with an average of 164 over 3 games. Monica put me to shame with scores of 179, 184, and 201. After we finished and left the last league track, I told Monica I needed to go to the store and buy a new bag, and told her I'd meet him at the bar. I bought a bag and headed to the bar where I found Monica sitting with some guy. I walked up to the table, pulled out a chair, and sat down, expecting Monica to introduce me to the guy, but instead the guy said, "I don't remember asking you to join us." I looked at Mon and asked, "Did you join him at the table or did he join you?" "I was here first." I turned to the guy and said, "She is my girlfriend. We came together and we will leave together, and since my girlfriend is sitting here, I will sit here too. If you have problems with this, I am ready to go with you to the parking lot, where we can discuss this issue in more detail." He gave me a hostile look, got up, and left. "Your friend?" I asked as he left. "Hardly. I've dated him twice, decided 2 times was too much, but he can't seem to take no for an answer. Maybe he'll accept it now. My hero. Saved me from a bad man. Damn right, woman. I'm saving you for myself." We went to my house and played in the bedroom until it was time for her to go home and let the babysitter go. On Thursday, Monica was alone with Melanie, so I drove to the gas station and got the Mustang ready for Saturday's trip to the paint shop. On Friday, dinner was already waiting for me when I arrived at Monica's, and I received a kiss for dessert just before she left. Mel and I played cards again, and this time, I taught her how to play war. She had no school the next day and was able to stay up until Monica returned. Mon put her to bed, but Mel insisted that I read to her, which I did until she fell asleep. When she fell asleep, Mon and I settled down on the sofa and kissed for about 20 minutes, and then she pulled away and said, "This is so stupid." She took me by the hand, lifted me from the sofa, and led me to her bedroom. As soon as the door closed, she began to undress, looked at me and said, "Don't stand here, but act according to the program." I quickly undressed and followed her onto the bed. When we were lying in our arms after a full program, she said, "Mel usually doesn't wake up until 7 or so. Will you be able to leave by then?" "Don't know. After you have fun with me, I usually sleep like a log. Do you think you can get me up in time?" She laughed. "Give me a few minutes to catch my breath and I'll be out of here." "I don't want you to leave, but I can't let Mel see you here when she gets up." I told her I understood, but in reality I didn't. Mel was too young to understand, and by the time she was old enough, I assumed I would already be married to Monica. But Monica wanted it, so I got up, got dressed, and got ready to leave. I told Mom that I needed to take the Mustang to the paint shop in the morning, and asked her if she and Mel wanted to come with me, and then have a picnic in the park. She said it was a good idea, and I told her I'd pick her up at 9. I went to my room, set the clock to 8, and fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. I picked up the girls at 9, and we went to the gas station to pick up the Mustang. Mon got behind the wheel of my pickup truck and followed me to Ray's collision. Ray inspected the car and asked me the same question he always asked me every time I brought him a car to paint. "Are you going to keep it or sell it?" My standard answer has always been, "Don't know. I cannot decide." This time I knew the answer. Prodom, this took him by surprise. "You are sure?" "Yes, need money." "I just might find someone who wants to buy it." "How much are you going to ask for it?" I told him the number and he said he thought it was reasonable. I knew he was wondering why I made the decision so quickly. Everything was simple. I wanted money. I didn't need them, but I wanted them. I wanted them because I was sure, absolutely sure, that I would marry Monica and want to move us from an apartment to a house. It wasn't a problem because I had the money to do it, but I wanted to pay cash and not finance it. I had a little over 415K in the bank in checking accounts, savings accounts, and certificates of deposit. I even had a money market account with a broker I knew and trusted. My brother has. But I wasn't sure it was enough to buy the house I wanted, so I wanted to top it up. Why did I live in an apartment if I had so much money in the bank? It's simple. Living alone, I didn't need more than an apartment, but after Karen and before Monica, I didn't meet a single woman who was enough for me to think about anything other than an apartment. Why did I have so much money in the bank? My father was in the insurance business, and when Karen and I got married, he convinced me to get life insurance. Because of my age and Karen's age, at that time I was able to get a policy for $250,000 for each of us, for a reasonable amount. The policy had a standard double indemnity clause, and when Karen died, I received $500,000. I had credit cards, but I rarely used them, preferring to pay in cash. I continued to fund my account as I sold the cars I bought and restored. When I sold a car, part of the proceeds went to purchase the next project, and the rest went to the bank. Financially, I was in great shape. My Silverado was only 5 months old and was paid off. At work, I had a 401k that the company matched up to 5%, and I contributed 10% of my salary to it every day. Ray gave me a couple of recommendations on cars I might consider for my next project, and then I left the Mustang in his capable hands and drove away. We went to the park and let Mel play, and about an hour later, I took out the picnic basket I had packed, and we ate. I dropped the girls off at home by 3 o'clock and then drove home, showered and changed to get ready for the evening with Monica. I picked her up at 6, and for a change, I didn't ask where she wanted to go or what she wanted to do. I wanted to spend a real evening with her, not just take me to your bedroom. We had dinner at Duke's Steakhouse, and then I took her to the pit for drinks and dancing. We had a good time and returned to my apartment around 11. Mon found a nanny who could stay the night so she didn't have to rush home. It's good that we finished with her only at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up at 9, Mon was gone. I made myself breakfast, then did laundry and cleaned the apartment until 1 p.m., when I picked up the girls and headed to my parents' house for a Sunday barbecue. It was a family holiday, and in addition to my parents, there were my brother, sister, their spouses, and 5 children. I owed a lot to my brothers and sisters. Before they got married and started procreating, there was a lot of pressure on me, as the eldest, to give my parents grandchildren. I could never convince them that Karen wouldn't just let me get pregnant. When Ron married Wanda, and Wanda gave birth to twin girls and a boy a year and a half later, the pressure took off from me. Then Julie married Mike, and within 3 years they had a grandson and a granddaughter. I stopped hearing from my mother that I couldn't give her grandchildren. My whole family seemed engrossed in Monica and Melanie. The younger Ron and both Julies were close in age to Mel, and she immediately got involved in playing with them. Mom, Wanda, and Julie quickly took Monica away from me, no doubt to get dirt on me and give some of theirs away, and I ended up freeing Dad from grilling so he could have a beer or two and chat with Ron and Mike. It was a good day, and as we were getting ready to leave, both Mom and Julie told me that I would be a fool to let Mon go. "She's perfect for you," Julie said. On the way home, Monica said she really liked my family, and Mel said she hoped she could see Jack, Marvin, and Jessica again. They were a lot of fun to play with. I dropped the girls off, received kisses from both, and then headed to my apartment and to bed. On the way home on Sunday, Monica told me that she and Mel were supposed to go to her mother's, so she doubted she would see me until Tuesday. Monday, when I got home from work, I went to look at a couple of promising cars that Ray had given me for my next restoration project. I found a '91 Silverado that I liked, and I made the man an offer, and he accepted. I wrote him a check called West Side Towing and arranged to have the pickup truck transported to the gas station. Tuesday and Friday were almost identical to the previous week, except that on Wednesday, after bowling, Mon told me that we were invited to her parents' house for dinner on Saturday. On Saturday, I met her parents, and I immediately liked them and got the impression that they liked me. They kept Mel at their place for the night, So when I took Monica home, I stayed the night, and this continued until noon the next day. I came to the conclusion that Mon was insatiable, and that the only reason I could stay with her was because of my daily trips to the gym. There was a 24-hour fitness center 3 blocks from my work, and I spent most of my lunch breaks working out there. I took Mom to Red Robin for lunch, and then we picked Melanie up. We ended up staying at her parents' for dinner, and then I took the girls home. On Monday after work, I went to the paint shop. I called Ray and told him I was coming, and when I arrived, he introduced me to a man who was interested in buying the car. I told him my price, he accepted it, and wrote me a check on the spot. On the way home, I stopped at the flower shop and bought 2 flower arrangements, one for Monica and one for Mel, stopped at Mon's apartment and gave them to the girls. I received kisses from both of them and went home. The next 2 months passed almost like a repeat of the previous weeks, and then I decided it was time to get it done or start retreating from the potential heartache. It was Saturday, and Mom had a babysitter for the night. We went out to dinner, had a drink, and danced a bit, and then came back to my place. I poured Monica a drink and then got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She didn't light up, smile, or jump for joy. She looked away from me and seemed hesitant to speak. Finally, she looked at me and said, "I was afraid of this and hoped that this would not happen. I've been very happy in our relationship, honey, but I think it's confession time for me, and you might want to retract your proposal when you hear what I have to say. I already told you that before I met Dan, I was a real slut, but I never told you the whole story. I started my path as a slut in high school. A week after prom and 2 days after my 18th birthday, I gave myself to Drew, our neighbor's 19-year-old son, and I loved it. After that first time, we did it wherever we could, whenever we could find time for it. One night we went to a party. I had a little too much alcohol, and Drew and I snuck out and found a bedroom. We had sex, and after we finished, he got up and went to take a leak. A few minutes later, we got down to business again. Halfway there, I discovered it wasn't Drew. It was some guy who wandered into the room and saw me lying on the bed. I did not care. Later, they told me that 9 guys spent that night with me, and 3 of them more than once. After that night, I was practically a toy for Drew and his friends. Threesome, foursome, gangbang, I did it all and did it voluntarily. After graduating from high school, I attended a local community college. Drew and most of the other guys I talked to had athletic scholarships to 4-year schools, but Drew had a cousin who went to community college, and he set us up with him. Archie ran with a group of bikers, and I rode with Archie. At first it was just Archie, but later it was a whole gang of bikers. I found out that the rule was this. For the first month you were just an old girlfriend of the guy you were skating with, but after a month you became a general club girl who could be used. During the first month, you were brought up to speed so that you could leave if you wanted. If you stayed there after the first month, it was taken for granted that you knew what you were getting into. I couldn't wait for the first month to be over so I could get back to my usual sex routine. Nobody forced me or pumped me full of illegal substances. I just liked sex. In the second semester, my first class was business law, and the guy who sat next to me on the right was named Dan. I know most people don't believe in love at first sight, but this is the only way I can describe what happened between me and Dan. I left the biker gang, put aside all thoughts of multiple partners, and focused solely on Dan. We got married, and I expected to live happily ever after. Dan was open about the fact that he didn't want to have children, and he made sure I understood that before we got married. Then the pills failed me. Looking back, I think I should have supplemented the pills with my diaphragm, but I didn't, and ended up pregnant. Dan said it wasn't a problem and we'd just arrange the abortion. I refused. Even though I didn't really want to be a mother, I just couldn't go through with the abortion. Dan and I argued until it was too late to do the procedure, and then he ran out of the house and joined the army. I was angry with him for what he did, and after he left, a month later, I mentally said, "Fuck you," and called Archie. He spent 2 days in my bed. On the 3rd day, he brought Max with him, and the next day it was Max and Ted. The guys thought it was great to have sex with a married, pregnant woman, but I went back to multiple partners and gangbangs and loved it. I was sitting in the back seat of Archie's car when my water broke. I received the news of Dan's death a month after Melanie was born, and I'm sorry to say it didn't have any impact on me. He left me, and for me, it was just a release. When the doctor told me I could return to sexual activity, I left Melanie with my parents for the weekend and called Archie. I spent Saturday with him and Sunday with him, Ted, and Max. By the time I arrived at my parents' house to pick Melanie up, I felt guilty for leaving her. Over the next week, Archie and a few others spent the night with me, and one night, Melanie started crying, and I was so into the sex that I went ahead and let her cry. When the guys were done with me and she was still crying, I finally woke up to what I had done, and a real feeling of guilt came over me. That night forced me to pull my head out of my ass and start being the best mother I could be to Melanie. I doubt you want to be married to such a woman. Perhaps I wouldn't want to be married to such a woman, but now it's not you. You put all that behind you and focused on being Melanie's mother. What you did in the past is none of my business. You are now the woman I am asking to marry me. There are a few things behind my back that I'm not very proud of. The past is the past. Our lives began that day at King Soopers. Everything that happened before this day has nothing to do with our lives now. It's not that simple, honey. The guys who handled me are out there, and it's inevitable that one day we'll run into one of them. They were a rude bunch, and I can only imagine what they would say or try to do. I don't know if you want to put yourself in a position where you have to put up with it. They should be worried. If I have to fight their entire group, as far as I'm concerned, you're worth it. Do you really mean that? You know that, yes. Besides, you know that I have always wanted children and that the only way to have them is to marry a woman who has them. I know for sure that Melanie won't mind. You should marry me for Melanie's sake, if for no other reason. Well, I guess if Melanie wants it, I'll have to say yes. We got married in a civil ceremony, with her parents and my parents as witnesses. We bought a 4-bedroom house on 10 acres. 1 bedroom for us, 1 for Melanie, 1 turned into a home office, and 1 turned into a guest room. The house had a 3-car garage, and a lift was installed in one of the bays so that I could continue my hobby of restoring cars. We moved into the house to live the good life. 3 years after the wedding, the first big problem appeared. Before this, there were several small ones. Some of her old friends talked and tried things, but broken noses, black eyes, etc. put an end to it all. Archie's 4-day stay in the hospital made it clear to him that I didn't think well of their actions. A big problem arose at Monica's work. One evening, she came home from work and told me that she had a serious problem. A friend stopped by the office of Alex, one of the sales agents, a couple of days ago. This friend was one of the bikers I rode with when I was a wild child, and Barney recognized me. Apparently, on one of the trips I took some photos, and Alex told me that Barney passed on the photos. Alex wants me to have sex with him, or he will send copies to you, distribute the photos around the office, and also at the 2 restaurants where we sometimes have lunch. You'll have to do it here in the house. What? Have you gone completely crazy? Not at all. We just need to get him somewhere where I can deal with him alone. You will tell him that I will be out of town for 3 days, and he needs to come here because I call every evening when I am out of town, and you need to be here to answer the call. Tease him a little. Ask him if he would like to make out with you on my bed while you talk to me. I bet he won't miss this chance. And so he did. Monica told him that she puts Melanie to bed at 9, and I usually call around 10, so if he can get there at 9:30, they'll be on their way by the time I call. She told him he had to leave by 6 in the morning before Melanie got up. She then told him that if he behaved well, he could come back the other 2 nights, when I was gone. He knocked on the door at 9:25, and Monica answered the door naked, except for a pair of sandals. She led him into the bedroom, saying she wanted him in her ass when I called. I never let my husband have my ass, so you'll be the first in it, after Barney and his cronies. I was outside the bedroom door when he walked into the room, and he never knew what hit him. We had a short conversation with him, including some threats and blackmail. He happily told us where the photographs were and seemed to understand that it was better not to mess with me. The next day, Monica went to work, but Alex was not there. Around lunchtime, she learned that he had called and quit. Not being a completely trusting person and having slight doubts about Alex's confession, I tracked down Barney and talked to him. When I left him, I became convinced that Monica had never been photographed playing her sex games. I don't know if her past will come up again and try to cause problems, but if it does, we'll deal with it. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.